Peace. The whole deal with Indian camp is it's nice and short, and it very closely resembles what you guys are going to see when you take any test. I mean, you know, pretty much most of the high school tests, like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, the standardized tests, they stick to the script. Like, you end up getting a story that's kind of in the middle there, you know, in the middle. Indian camp is something that could be understood by you if you're in middle school, but it could be appreciated by you if you're 23, 24, 25 years old. So I think it's a good story to lead with. So anyway, campus, I gave you 3 questions, and they're 3 hard questions. You know, so if you didn't know the answers to them immediately, that's okay, but it means you're not a strong reader. You know, so you know, you might be a moderate reader, but you're not a strong reader. Strong reader knows the answers right away. Out of the 3 questions, I think the first one we're going to deal with is the easiest one. And I think I phrased it something like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but how did we know that the doctor, the white doctor, looked at the Indian woman, or looked at Indians as animals, right? I mean, because, you know, you already know that the doctor's, in a way, the doctor's the servant to the Indian, in a sense, because the doctor's serving her. You know, he went through training, and now he's become her servant, in a sense. He's doing work. Why is he bothering with this? You know, why would he take this boat and drag along his son, who's obviously was referred to in the story as what? As an intern, right? Why would he take his son on this internship to this Indian camp if he looks at these people as animals? And how do we know that he looks at these Indians as animals? Let's go back to the text, which for your convenience, by the way, I've put back in the comments again. So open up that text right now if you hadn't already. And the first question I asked you guys about it, by the way, if you didn't watch the first video, watch the first video, man. Watch the first video and come back to this. You know, I'm firing pearls at you. The first question, why did the doctor look at the Indian as an animal? And the answer, I'll point it to you right now. There's one sentence in there. One sentence. And there's specifically one portion. And it's only a few paragraphs down. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About six paragraphs down. With the quotation, "You don't know," said his father. I want you guys to meet me there, and we're going to read that over again. "You don't know," said his father. "Listen to me. What she's going through is called being in labor. The baby wants to be born, and she wants it to be born. All her muscles are trying to get the baby born. That's what's happening when she screams." "I see," said Nick. Just then the woman cried out. "Oh, Daddy, can't you give her something to make her stop screaming?" asked Nick. "No, I haven't any anesthetic," his father said. "But her screams are not important. I don't hear them because they're not important." So what do we have there? He's there to do a job, right? He's there to deliver this baby. He doesn't give a shit about how she feels. She's like an animal, right? He didn't even bother bringing anesthetic on the boat with him when he went to the Indian camp. He wasn't going to need it. He might as well have been working on a cow, right? And go back to that again. "Can't you give her something to make her stop screaming?" asked Nick. "No, I haven't any anesthetic," his father said, "but her screams are not important." Right there, when you look at her screams are not important, you're realizing that all this guy wants to do is to be able to ignore them so he can finish the job, get in and out of Dodge, because the only thing that matters to him is that the baby's delivered healthily. You know, as far as what pain the woman is enduring is not important to him, because why? Because she's an animal. You look at question 2, and we're going to make that one, of course, you know, who is the real father of this baby? I mean, we know it's not the guy on the bunk, right? And why do we know that? Firstly, he killed himself. Why did he kill himself? And that's going to be question number 3. He killed himself, and here's the baby being born. Here's the doctor. Here's Nick. They're all there. The Indian woman screaming her ass off, right? Replay the story back in our heads. And what you do if you're a strong reader is you refer back to the text. So we're going to refer back to this text, and we've got, okay, let's go from the beginning. The lake shores, another rowboat drawn up, and the thing for you to learn here is that now that you're referring back to the text, you want to move and fast forward. You want to start skimming. Now that you've really read through the literature, you kind of have a vague memory of what's going on. You go back and you refer back to the text. When you're being asked a question, I mean, this is vital. But, you know, it's only going to work if you really read the text. I know that there's always an option of not reading through the text. You know, you read the text. You always read the text. You know, that's the way they get you, man. You don't read it, you think you're going to take the easy way out. So anyway, we go through the first paragraph. They're going on the boat. And then you get up to this part where they're interacting with other humans. Over to the Indian camp, there's an Indian lady very sick, right after paragraph, I guess, 3 here. "Oh," said Nick, Across from the bay, they found the other boat beached. Uncle George was smoking a cigar in the dark. The young Indian pulled the boat way up on the beach. Uncle George gave both the Indians cigars. Now, I want you to just stick a pin in that for a second. Let's take a look at the men that could be the father, except for who is purportedly the father, the husband that killed himself. Well, it could be the doctor. It can't be Nick. It could be the doctor. It could be one of the Indian men, right, that are waiting for the boat. So maybe it's one of the other Indians, right? And who's the other man we got? It could be Uncle George. Now, immediately you're saying, okay, the father's the doctor or the father's Uncle George. One of those two, right? It's probably not one of the other Indian men. But as a strong reader, you got to figure out which of the two is it. It couldn't be the doctor. The doctor didn't give a shit about her when she was screaming, right? You know, her screams aren't important. So that rules him out. And so we're thinking it's Uncle George who's the father of the baby, right? But we've got a long way to go before we can prove that, you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So let's think about what we can do here. Let's look at Uncle George's behavior throughout the story. All right, we go back to the story. The first time we see Uncle George, across the bay they found the other boat beached. Uncle George was smoking a cigar in the dark. The young Indian pulled the boat way up on the beach. Uncle George gave both the Indians cigars, right? So he's smoking a cigar. He gave both Indians the cigars. You know, anybody with me yet? You know, baby's born, pass out cigars. You guys too young for this, right? Well, if you're too young for this, I'll just tell you that, you know, passing out cigars when a baby is born is just, it's a tradition, man. I mean, it's a, you know, it's something that was still kind of going on when I was a kid, but it's something that more harkens back to the old days. You know, the baby's born, all the men are smoking their cigars, and it's a celebration thing. They even manufacture cigars with like little pink ribbons around them, you know, it's a girl or whatever it is, you know. So this is an American tradition, and also, you know, a tradition that exists in other parts of the world. So that's one clue that we have to Uncle George being the dad. The second clue appears a little bit later. You know, after that section we just referenced, which is, you know, the portion about the woman being in labor and her screams not being important. You go down a few more paragraphs, you're going to see the paragraph that says, let's go to it. Okay, it starts with later when he started to operate. Uncle George, catch up with me here. Later, when he started to operate, Uncle George and 3 Indian men held the woman still. She bit Uncle George on the arm, and Uncle George said, "Damn squaw bitch." So we already established in the last video that our context clues tells us squaw is probably some kind of a derogatory term for Indian woman. I could be wrong, but that's what I got from it. Anyway, but why the hell did she bite Uncle George? Well, this is clue number 2, you know? And I noticed it the first time I read it, right? So if it's an Indian woman and she's in pregnancy, you know, the classic thing, you know, like, you did this to me, to the father, you know, this is your baby, you did this to me, you know, what we mean by that is, like, you know, ejaculation station, yeah, so you did this to me. But regardless, you know, that's kind of typical behavior of a pregnant woman or a woman giving birth, like, you know, to suddenly turn on the father. You see it in all the movies, you read it in all the stories, you know. So who's she turning on? She's turning on Uncle George. The husband is up in the bunk, and what the fuck is he doing? And that brings us to question number 3, right? Why does the husband kill himself? So immediately you want to go back to the text and figure that out. I mean, did he kill himself because he wasn't the father? Did he kill himself because the woman was screaming and was in so much pain and wasn't being helped and he just couldn't stand it? Because I think that's what the doctor said. Sometimes he just can't stand things. This is the hard one, guys. And this is where we have to use a little bit of our imagination and figure out why the husband actually slit his own throat when he was up on there on that bunk. It says here, based on the timeline, that he probably did it after the baby was already out of the vag, right? So if he did that, right, then the chances are, then why did he do it? What did the baby come out looking like? Half like who? So that whole story, half like Uncle George, that whole story is in the subtext here, you know? They don't tell you anything. They don't tell you that Uncle George is the father. They don't tell you that the Indian man, husband, killed himself when he saw a half-white baby pop out of his wife's vagina. Excuse me. They didn't tell you any of that, but it's all there. And a strong reader reads it and sees it, you know? An observer, or a weak reader, just gets the outline like we talked about in the last video. So the objective here is for you to turn, you know, from a weak reader, if you are, or an average reader, and turn into a strong reader. You know, so if you got all that stuff the first go round, you're a strong reader. Turn me off, never turn me back on again, right? But if you didn't get a half of it, even half of it, that means you need to rewatch the first video and rewatch the answer video and take a look at all those little particulars and those things that we talked about, all the details, right? And this seems like a lot of work to go through for a page that in a book is only 1, 2, 3, 4.5 pages. But it's called deconstruction. It's when you break something down. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, there's going to be times in your life, whether you're the reading type or not, that you're going to have to break down things and break them down quickly, you know, in order to demonstrate your intelligence, right? So this is part of the way to do it. You go through it as an observer, but you go through it as a keen observer. If you don't get the words, if you don't notice what a word means, you don't understand it right away, you figure it out. You don't just pass it by, right? And as you're reading purposefully, with a determination to really just not just plow through the story and get the big tent poles of what happened, but to get the details and to have a full understanding. And a good strategy for doing that is imagery. As you're reading those words, you try to paint that picture in your mind as you're reading. Especially if you have the opportunity, like on a test situation, to actually go back and look at the questions and see exactly what you're supposed to be looking for, and then you look with power. You know, you go into that thing and you know, you take no prisoners when it comes to the story. You know, you guys are so fucking good at video games. I'm good at video games. You guys are so good at video games. But there's detailed work that goes into understanding video games, man. You look at a PlayStation 4 controller. It's got the D-pad. It's got the 2 analog sticks. It's got 4 buttons on the front and 4 buttons on the top. And a start. Yeah, come on, man. It's a lot of stuff going on there. You know, so... And you know, that all relates to menus and things on screen. You kiddos are so good at that shit. You just go and you hit this with that same kind of level of determination and a will to understand it, and you're going to go through and you knock it out the park, all right? So listen, you know, hopefully this will be beneficial to you. If you guys haven't seen the first five videos in the series, please go back to the first 5 videos. I definitely think that that'll help you out on standardized tests. And if you've got issues with anything academic that's coming up, that's coming between you and what you need to do to get to that next milestone, I continue my promise to you guys to dedicate a bit of my time whenever I got it, right, to come in and give you those lessons. All right, y'all. Peace.